the Trevor Jackson Podcast.
And that's the end of that. That's all I got to say about that. Moving along in the conversation, we're going to get right to it. I think it's important to start this conversation off with Stephen A's contract. I'm going to read the statement that he released thanking ESPN for extending his contract because this is an important piece to all of the puzzle that has been going on to me. Y'all can tell me what y'all think in the comment section, but this is an important piece. So ESPN signed Stephen A. Smith to a multi-year contract extension. I'm happy and honored to remain a member of the Disney ESPN family for at least the next 5 years. There's only bigger and bigger things ahead. It starts with continuing to put in that work. See y'all soon. Stephen A. Smith, featured commentator, executive producer of First Take. So dang, he done took that show and became the executive producer of that show. One thing I want to do is give Stephen A. Smith some hand claps. You know, in the black community, people have been harsh of Stephen A. Smith as of recently. And, you know, for the last couple of years, because he do give some wild takes. He do give a lot of perspectives. He said some crazy things about Kyrie Irving. He said some crazy things about Kwame Brown. But to be honest with you, if any of us was on the camera talking as much as he talked, we would be saying some crazy things also. I talk once a week on my podcast platform and give takes and points of views of things that's going on in the country and in the world. And I say crazy things. This man is on camera 2-3 times a day. He on ESPN 2 times a day. Then he does his own independent show every day. He is due to say something crazy. Now you could think he's playing a part in the white power structure and to the white supremacist structure by being a part of ESPN and Disney and all of that though. But in life, people make choices, people make decisions. And I don't got nothing against you. I'm aware of what you're doing. I ain't got nothing against you if you're doing it and you're doing well with it. Man, salute, because at the end of the day, it's going to be people going to school for journalism. And they're going to be studying Stephen A. because they're trying to get to $100 million too, because he's exceptional at his job. Exceptional. You might not like him. You might not like what he stands for, but he's exceptional at what he does. Now we're going to get into the conversation. My fault, y'all. That clip went super viral. And what's crazy about the clip of him and LeBron interaction going viral is that the man was at the game late night. It was damn near midnight Eastern time. He was back on TV at 7-8 in the morning. He working his ass off, boy. Real talk.
Now let's get to a subject that's apparently gone viral on social media today, and it also involves yours truly. Last night I was in attendance at the Knicks-Lakers game, sitting courtside, where during a timeout, I believe it was in the third quarter, I was confronted by none other than LeBron James himself. LeBron had some choice words for me in regards to comments I've made prior about him in regards to his son, Bronny James. Before I get any further, let me just put to bed a couple of things that have been reported that are false. People was talking about LeBron called me out my name, or I saw somebody said he called me a bitch. Somebody said he called me a punk and all this. None of that is true. He was fiery. He approached me during the game and he said, "Stop effing with my son. That's my effing son. Stop effing with my son." I said, "What? Nah, man, straight up, man to man. Real talk. Stop effing with my son." And I saw how furious he was. And I said, "We can talk about it later." "Nah, F that. Stop effing with my son. That's my son. I said, "All right, dog. Fine." And he walked away. That's all he said. I knew what he was talking about. I've spoken about this before. Matter of fact, I heard that Not many, not all, but a few players were upset at me about that. I think one player in particular was Draymond Green, who I haven't spoken to since and has no desire to speak to me primarily because of this, I suppose. And I found out the way that I found out, which was last night while I was at the game. I was a guest of Ari Emanuel, owner of William Morris Endeavor, founder of William Morris Endeavor, rather. Founder of Endeavor, I'm sorry, before they merged with William Morris. And I was a guest of his, sitting at the game with him and Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was sitting courtside, and the next thing you know, out of the blue, LeBron came in my face. Obviously, since he brought up his son, he was piggybacking off of what I had said weeks ago. And what I had said weeks ago is that when Bronny James was struggling, and I threw out some stats and stuff like that, and I said he's not ready. And then I came on this podcast and I reiterated that point. Clearly, it was something that was on LeBron James' mind that he was aching to confront me about. And so it happened the way that it happened.
That clip was off of his independent podcast, the Stephen A. Smith Show, that's on YouTube, because to me, he got more in depth on his own platform than he did on First Take. He can't curse on First Take. He has to keep it clean and has to keep it professional on First Take. And I salute that. I see a lot of people who are talking about this subject play the clip from First Take. And he was speaking softly, like he was speaking like he was hurt. He was speaking low vibrational. And what I want to present to y'all is a perspective. That's all I do. I speak to the perspective. And in this perspective, I want to ask y'all, who was wrong? Now, I'm not a father, but as a father, hearing the things that not just Stephen A. Smith is saying, but a lot of the journalists and a lot of the sports media are saying, I would take offense to what's being said about my son if I was a father. But I got to hold myself accountable for the nepotism, for the position that I put my son in, because my son isn't qualified and my son wasn't ready. To be honest with you, Bronny James scored 10 points. He averaged 10 points in high school. I don't know if you can make it on a great college basketball team averaging 10 points. That's just an average basketball player. You might not get a college degree unless you're very intelligent and the team just want to pick you up to be the cleanup man. You ain't going to start or be a starter averaging 10 points. Did he even start at USC? Then when he was at USC, not to bash Bronny James because he had some type of cardiac arrest or some cardiac situation to where he couldn't play, he only averaged 4 points. He averaged 4 points in college. But he made it to the NBA. Now, I'm for nepotism. If you can help out your children and you're in position to help out your children, do it. Do it. That's what America is. America is put yours in position. But if you can't handle the criticism, your son is a public figure now. He is in the spotlight. He's up for discussion. He's a trending conversation. He is something that people can profit off of by talking about him. To me, Stephen A. Smith was wrong and right. LeBron James was wrong and he was right. I can see both sides clearly of why what was done was done. But I want to speak about something, though, that was unnecessary on Stephen A. Smith's part in that last clip I played. Why did he talk about being on the floor with Ari Emanuel? Why he talked about the Jewish guy, like as if you embarrassed me in front of my Jewish plug, LeBron. Don't do that. Don't embarrass me in front of my Jewish friend. Now, when I think about that, I think of like we trying to be clean and impress the other side instead of impressing our own. It's kind of sick to hear him say that. You embarrass me in front of my Jewish friend. That's what I heard when I heard him say that. What did y'all hear him say? When y'all heard him say, I was with Arya, man. It don't matter who you with at the time. He didn't get up and defend you. Now, if it was me, I'm gonna tell y'all what I would have done. Even though we just announced that Stephen A got the $100 million contract, he don't need no money. If it was me and Brian approached me about the truth, because what Stephen A. Smith said was the truth. Can't nobody argue with that and say that Bronny, he may be a good kid. He's LeBron's son. LeBron bigged him up, spoke him up. His last season, he want to play with his son. He want this, he want that. He's better than half of the NBA. He said all of those things. But the truth is, no disrespect to Brian and Bronny, he trash, dog. That's the truth. So Stephen A didn't say nothing wrong at all. But let's get to it.
And is a big player in the industry these days. He has my number. It's very easy for LeBron James to have called me. It's very easy for one of them to have called me and to say, LeBron wants to see you. He wants to talk to you face to face, man to man. That's not what happened. Last night at the Lakers game happened. Now I get, and people have said to me today that I'm looking pretty damn sad. I'll fess up, I am. Because something like that is not something that should make any of us comfortable. I didn't anticipate it. I don't know why I didn't anticipate it. But I'm not here to blame LeBron James. That wasn't a basketball player talking to me last night. That was a dad. He rolled up on me as a father. That's what he did. That was not a basketball player talking to me. We talk about LeBron James all the time. Practically everybody does. That's not what LeBron James does. So for him to confront me, obviously it was something that he was incredibly passionate about, put off about, and felt necessary to confront me about. And what better motivation could there be than to be protective of his son? I understand it. I respect it as a parent. I'm a father of 2 daughters. And in all honesty, I couldn't definitively tell you that if I were LeBron James, I would not have done the same thing.
One thing I have to give him hand claps about is taking accountability. I respect any man that takes accountability for his actions, for the things that happened to him, for the things that he said. He took accountability. But one thing that caught my attention is, though, he said he could have called me. You know, people have my number. Paul, whatever his name is, Paul, one of Bron's best friends, he got my number. But you spoke about my son in public. So if I'm thinking like LeBron, I'm going to confront you in public. I ain't get ready to call you. You didn't call me before you said what you said about my son. So I'm going to confront you in public. This is just a weird case of coincidence, because to me, nobody is right. I mean, both people are right and both people are wrong. So this is just interesting. But one thing I want to say and one thing I want to play and read to y'all is Bronny James' response on Twitter. He reposted something of Stephen A. Smith on the Jimmy Fallon show. And Bronny said, funny how the ones who couldn't hoop got the most to say. So they basically saying that Bronny James cooked Stephen A. Smith. Why is this so true? You know, to be honest with you, little buddy, you should have stayed clear of this because you saying the ones who couldn't hoop got the most to say. In black culture and in the black community, Stephen A is the most successful sports journalist of all time. He's seasoned. He has multiple years of conversation and education on the job that he's doing. You might not like what he say. You might not like where he work at. You might not like what he stand for. You might not like what he's co-signing, but he's the best ever. And you don't have to be a baller. That is weird a little bit because that's going to take people that are educating themselves on journalism out the picture. What are y'all thoughts about that? Do y'all only want athletes speaking on sports, or do y'all want the people that are true journalists speaking on it? I see that in hip hop also. Hip hop is removing its educational journalists, the people that has researched, studied the topics at hand, studied the artists. They're removing it with the artists, the Noriegas, the Joe Buddens, the people that was actually artists. That's the same way with the Shaqs, the Charles Barkley. You removing the person that's educated and researched and know how to conduct a conversation professionally over the people that you want to be entertained by. This is just interesting to me. For real, that's really interesting to me. And I think Stephen A is, you don't have to be able to hoop to be able to talk, to be able to be a journalist. Real talk.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.